Okay, this next thing that we're going to talk about is the color wheel. Chances are you've already seen a color wheel. You probably did it at elementary school. You've probably seen this somewhere before. But I see way too many of you coming in and leaving 8th grade, coming up asking me, oh, what two colors make red? Or what two colors make orange? You guys have got to know these things. There are certain things that when you get older and you don't know, you're going to look real stupid if you don't know. And what colors make other colors is one of them. And that's probably one of the biggest things that this project is going to be about. So, if you look here, this is the color wheel. It's made up of a few different types of colors. Now, there's a lot of ways to break up a color wheel. But the biggest ways, the few biggest ways are the ones we're going to go over right now. Okay, so let's look right here. The first is the primary colors. Primary colors are the three big ones: red, blue, and yellow. These are the primary. I'll put a P right next to them so you know that these are the primaries. Now, they have two big traits to them. The first one is that you can't mix them. If somebody comes up to me and says, what two colors make red? Nothing makes red. In order for you to get the color red, blue, or yellow, you need to find something in nature that is already that color to make paint out of. You can't mix any two colors to make those colors. You need red, blue, and yellow to start out with. The second trait with them is that if you mix any two of them together, you will get what's called a secondary color. So, right here, you will see that you've got your secondary colors. I'll put an S here for this. Secondary, secondary, secondary. Here's a good thing to remember. Primaries, you can't get them. A primary plus a primary equals a secondary. So, if I take red and I mix it with yellow, I will get orange. If I take primary red, mix it with primary blue, I get purple. If I get primary blue, mix it with primary yellow, I get green. So the secondary colors are whatever you get when you mix a primary and a primary. Now, here's the next bit of math. There is another thing called a trietary color. I will put a T next to all the trietary colors. That's these little ones in between. Now, you get a trietary color whenever you mix a primary and a secondary. So primary plus a primary equals a secondary. A primary plus a secondary equals a trietary. So, these are super easy to remember. Whereas in the secondaries have their own name, orange, green, and purple, these are just taking the two colors and combining their names together. For example, primary red plus secondary orange equals trietary red-orange. This one would be yellow-orange. This would be yellow-green, blue-green. This one is blue-purple, purple-red. Now, some of these colors have their own little terms, like you could probably say that blue and green is turquoise, or even that red and purple is maroon. But there's different ways that you can talk about them. These are this entire color wheel. This is what you're going to need for the next part of the project. Now, there's one other way that's going to concern you when you're doing these projects, and that is dividing them up as a complementary color. Complementary colors are colors that are opposite of each other on the color wheel. So, if I look at this blue and I go directly across, these two colors are complementary, meaning a perfect opposite, orange and blue. So, if you look at this, what would the opposite of, or the complement to yellow be? The complement to yellow would be purple. These two are complementary. Red and green are complementary. Now, here's the thing about complementaries. They look awesome together. You'll see a lot of professional sports teams use these colors. For example, yellow, purple, Lakers, Vikings. Blue and orange, Chicago Bears. You don't really see a lot that are red and green because Christmas kind of has that color. If you dress your football team in a red and greens, kind of look like a bunch of elves. That's not to say that they don't look good together. That's why Christmas uses those two colors. Here's the thing though. Complementary colors, or ones opposite on the color wheel, They look amazing when they are next to each other. They look terrible when they are mixed together. So, while you can mix an orange and yellow or a red and yellow, you don't ever want to mix an orange and a blue. That is going to end up looking like this really orange, brownish, green puke color. So, don't mix complementaries. Only mix ones that are next to each other on the color wheel. So now that we've established what a color wheel is and how you're going to use the colors, you're going to need a color wheel to do this next step. So instead of rewinding the video and looking at the color wheel that I put in front of you, there is one in the folders that contain this project. I would look for a color wheel and open that up on your Chromebook so that you can go ahead and follow along and make it easier on yourself to label these different shapes. So what you really want to do is you want to combine colors. You want them to overlap, and where they overlap, you're going to paint the color that those two colors combined would make. So let's give an example. Going back to the color wheel. Let me back up. I want to stay away from complementary colors. So I don't want to mix a red and a green, a yellow and a purple, or an orange and blue. I want to mix colors that are along the same side of these so that would make sure that it would look good at the final product. So, let's go over here. I'm going to use the color wheel, and using the color wheel on your computer, you're going to look and figure out what these colors are going to end up looking like. So let's label this one. I'm going to label them using a red marker. I would do yours in pencil, but I'm doing it in a marker so that you can see what I'm going to be doing. Alright, so let's just start out easy here. I'm going to paint this shape right over here. This logo is going to be yellow. Well, where is it not overlapping anything else? It's not overlapping anything down here. So this little section would be yellow. Well, now before I can label what the overlap is going to look like, I have to figure out what this logo is going to be. So let's make this one blue. So I'm going to label this one with a B. It will also be blue up here, and it's also going to be blue right there because it's not overlapping anything else. And this one over here is also going to be blue right over here. But now what I have to worry about is where it overlaps. This one's yellow, this one's blue. If I go back to my color wheel, I will notice that when I mix the color yellow with the color blue, I'm going to get green. So, this one right here is going to be labeled with a G for green. So let's continue, looking at a few more. Again, staying away from complementary colors. This one up over here, I'm going to make this one red. So I'm going to label with an R. This one down here, I'm going to make purple or violet. Well, where these two overlap, purple and red, this is going to make red-purple. So I would just label this with an R and a P. That would be a trietary color. Red plus purple equals trietary red-purple. So now let's do this last piece. This last one is going to be tough because if you look, this one right here, it overlaps with this one and it overlaps with this one down here. So while it might look really, really good to make this one orange, these two, orange and blue, are complementary. So the only color that I could really not make this one is orange. It can be any color but orange. So, looking over here, I'm going to say that I'm going to make this one green. Oh, sorry, that's an R. I'm going to make that green. And then over here, I'm going to make this one yellow. So, where these overlap, this is going to be blue-green, and this one's going to be green-yellow. So, over here, I've got blue and yellow make green, purple and red make red-purple, yellow-green make green-yellow. I could have done any other ones. Let's erase this real quick and see what else we can do. This one would have worked also if I had made this one red. Red, on this one, red plus yellow makes this one orange. Blue plus red is going to make this one purple. So, I've gotten to the point now where I am done with all of this. All I want you to do right now is turn this video off and go ahead and label your project.